Imagine living in a tropical paradise where your crypto taxes get slashed to 0.1% with no capital gains, with the banks being your friends, with the exchanges being your friends, with even the regulators being your friends. Even the police on the corner are friendly. The people are sugary sweet, full of energy and life, and there's smiles everywhere. Living a holistic life, a quality life with the best facilities, the best schools, with the best people of the highest, most successful places in the top echelons of the world for you to go hang out and have coconuts on the beach with. Does that sound like it's too good to be true? Welcome to Bali, the best place I've found on earth for crypto investors, and that's why I'm here personally. And when I was looking for all this information on YouTube and other places, nobody mentioned Bali to be this kind of a safe haven and bastion of freedom for crypto investors. Nobody told me that there was this tax structure here, that the government is so pro-crypto, that the compliance and filing of all of this stuff is automated, so it makes your life seamless, that I could literally go from stable coins to physical cash in my hand within seconds. And that's why I've decided to share all of this with you. So in this presentation, we're going to give you priceless knowledge and tools to go through this journey yourself, or at the least understand how to save yourself potentially half of the gains that you make in the crypto markets. But you're probably thinking, why Bali? And here's just a rapid fire list of reasons why I think Bali is just the best place to be. Yes, the crypto taxes are amazing. Yes, the quality of life is world class. Yes, there's amazing people here. But that's just the business side of things, right? On the personal side of things, the amount of growth I've had being here inside and outside in 5 years has been more than I had in the 30 years of being in Canada. I have grown alongside healers and coaches and improved my health immensely. In Canada, I was 25 and I was overweight and obese. I was supposedly successful, but within, I did not feel that. Coming to Bali, that changed in all the ways that I can possibly imagine. The reason why you haven't heard of this is because all those consultants that normally help people structure themselves in different jurisdictions tend to recommend places where they make commissions. You're going to hear Barbados and St. Lucia and all of these places where it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy second passports. They're not interested in recommending places like Bali, where it costs you a fraction of that to set up your life in a much better way, in a country that has way more growth potential than a tiny little island somewhere. Honestly, I could just go on and on about why this is the best place to be, but you really have to come here and experience it. But let's go through me explaining what all of this stuff is. But before I even do that, you're probably thinking, who is this guy? Please let me introduce myself. My name is Sim Kela. I have dedicated 20 years of my life of blood, sweat, and tears to go from a mud house in India to living my ideal life at the age of 35. And I had always decided that I am going to retire at the age of 30. And along that journey, as I got closer and closer to it, especially being in crypto since 2012, I realized Canada is not the place for me to get there. I potentially could, but it would take much, much longer because I would have to give away half of everything that I was earning to a government which I did not support. At the same time, that government was becoming more and more hostile. And wherever you are, if you're noticing the same thing happening, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, 6 days before COVID, I decided to sell everything and move to Bali. And it was absolutely the greatest decision I've made in my entire life, bar none. I had been in crypto since 2012. And when I came here, I realized that there's a lot of good people that don't know how to participate in the digital asset space. So first, I started helping people avoid losing their money in crypto. And one thing led to another, and now I'm consulting governments and countries on how to develop their national infrastructure for the deployment of digital assets. And beyond just all of these titles and status and everything, my dream was always to build a self-sustainable community with our own farms, with ducks, chickens, cows, fish, avocados, bees, everything that I need to be able to sustain myself and everybody around me. And that is what I've achieved in just 5 years of being here. And along that journey, I've also had the privilege of being a leading voice in some of the most legendary networks in the world, like Elevation Barn, Mandala Club, Real Vision. Now I represent Indonesia in the Global Blockchain Business Council. Having gone on this journey myself, I realized there's so many people out there who need that same kind of support. And it's difficult to find, as it was difficult for me to find. So that's why I decided I'm going to offer this as support to anybody who needs it. So you can go through this entire journey. You have the right support alongside. You have the tools, you have the knowledge, and that's what we're going to cover today. But enough about me. Let's really talk about what's going on. Honestly, there's some big problems in the world today. Firstly, becoming wealthy in Western countries is like a curse. The more you make in crypto, especially, the more you're treated like a criminal. Just being able to use your money freely. The banks will ask you questions all along the way. You have to pay half of that as tax. And that's not even considering the hostility that's happening towards personal freedoms in those spaces. Now, more than ever, it's important to set your roots down in a place that supports a holistic life. Yes, freedom is important. Yes, your time is important. But then having amazing people around you, make it feeling safe in the place that you are, knowing that they're there to foster you and not block you, is priceless. At the same time, for me, having complete self-sufficiency is very important. And there's so many people that have joined us along on that mission. But honestly, the main reason I'm doing this is because I'm looking for activated individuals that are willing to do something about this. Not just sit and make money and numbers on a screen, but actually get together and use our resources to build a new way of life. But that's just me waxing philosophical about the big problems. But specifically looking at crypto, there are so many problems the average investor faces. Firstly, the journey of going from investing in digital assets to making a ton of money and then actually being able to convert it into lifestyle isn't as simple as it seems. The crypto investors tend to be privacy focused. Yet, once you do make millions of dollars in crypto, trying to withdraw that into your bank account and invest it into your lifestyle becomes a nightmare. Compliance becomes a nightmare. You have to constantly prove that you're not a criminal simply because you might have bought some DeFi project or you might have bought something OTC. And that process is becoming more and more difficult as time goes. One of the many reasons why I love Indonesia for my crypto holdings is because Indonesia is pro crypto as a country. They're very interested in attracting investors that are in the crypto space. The exchanges auto pay your 0.1% sales tax. It's auto filed, so you don't have to do any of that stuff. We work closely with the ministries to develop these regulations. We're even helping develop the entire tokenization infrastructure of Indonesia. So we are friends with them. On top of that, the banks, the regulators, they're all friends. And you even get concierge WhatsApp groups with them, where if you have an issue with the bank, you speak to the bank directly, and there's a person always waiting for you who knows who you are. If you have an issue with the exchange, you speak to the exchange directly. And you have teams of people to support you through the journey so you can focus on your life. And going from crypto to fiat and vice versa takes seconds. I can literally be sitting somewhere and I can take my stable coins, put it into the exchange, put it into the bank account, and pull it out as cash within 1 minute. And I could also reverse that process within another minute. So many people come here and they say, Sam, I'm able to let my shoulders down. because I'm not worried about some boogeyman in the sky who's going to come after me at each step because I'm breaking rules that I don't even know exist. Like I promised, now I'm going to show you this entire journey and what it looks like and give you all the knowledge that you need to be successful along the way. But before we do that, let's specifically look at who this is for, because this isn't for everybody. Specifically, this process will work for people who have more than $100,000 in crypto, who are likely to pay more than $30,000 in taxes. You have to be somebody who's willing to leave your current country. Okay. You don't have to come here and live here in Bali full time, but you do have to make sure you're not living in the country that you're currently in for more than 6 months. And I'll explain the details of that entire process soon. You do have to transition your wealth. Again, you don't have to transition all of it, but you do have to make a shift in your current wealth structures. I'll be honest, I specifically work with people who are nice and not entitled because I've found that the Balinese culture and the people here do not react well to people who come here thinking money is the most important thing. So if you're somebody like that and this triggers you, this is absolutely not for you. You do have to have a proven source of wealth in crypto. That's really important. That if you had some very complicated way of making your money in crypto, there's ways of making this process work for you, but it's going to be a lot more complicated. It tends to work best for people who just simply bought crypto and so are going to be selling it now. That's really important. And then finally, I would just love to have people who are in search of community, who are searching for a place to belong and be able to work on their bigger mission together. That's who this process is for. So we already looked at who this is for. Let's look at who this is not for. If you are involved in any kind of criminal activity, this is absolutely not for you. If you're somebody who thinks that you can evade the taxes that you owe by setting up something like this, that's just not how the process works. You have to pay the taxes that you already owe. And I'm going to give you a lot of details on how to understand if you owe taxes and if you do not. If you're somebody who cherishes money over value, time, relationships, this process is not something I will take you through. I'll give you all the secrets. Please feel free to do it on your own. I'm sure you can save a few $1,000s. That's not the kind of mindset that I like to work with. If you're somebody who's looking for offshore opportunities and you want to stay in your country and set up some kind of offshore thing because you might have seen it on YouTube, that's also not how it works. And this is definitely not one of the things that'll work for you. If you're somebody who does not want to KYC, which is know your customer, if you want to remain anonymous and be able to bring your money into bank accounts, this process will definitely not work for you. Anyone who doesn't have a proven source of wealth, because we have to make sure that we can prove that there isn't any kind of money laundering that's happening. And like I said, if anybody's looking to evade taxes, this is definitely not for you. So let's move on to understanding this process. Now, in order for you to get the most out of this journey, you need to understand the concept of tax residency. So your tax residency is where you pay tax, which government's tax laws you're beholden to. For a crypto investor, it's even simpler. It's where is your tax residency when you hit the sell button? Because that is the moment you create a taxable event, which causes you to owe taxes to the government whose tax residency you are within. The tax residency laws vary between countries and sometimes even between states. So, a simple few rules of thumb are: where is your physical presence? Where are you spending more than 6 months of your life? Where do you habitually reside? Where is your business conducted? Where are your centers of vital interests? For example, bank accounts and your infrastructure is set up. Where is your nationality? Where is your primary residence? If you actually own some real estate, all those things together will determine your tax residency. And the idea of the taxable event is also really important to understand. So a taxable event is when you sell something in crypto. Now, a big piece that most people misunderstand is, let's say you took dollars and then you bought US dollar stablecoin like USDT. And then you bought some Bitcoin and then turned the Bitcoin into Ethereum and the Ethereum back into dollars. When you go from US dollars to the stablecoin, you didn't make any profits. So that's not a taxable event. When you go from those stable coins to Bitcoin, that's a purchase. And technically, you didn't make any profits. So that is also not a taxable event. But the moment you go from Bitcoin to Ethereum, that is a taxable event where the capital gains on the Bitcoin will be charged as tax. Now, when you sell that Ethereum, and hopefully you made a bunch of money on the Ethereum, that's another taxable event where the capital gains on the Ethereum itself will be taxed. So understanding these nuances is very important, and having a strategy around when to take these actions can make a world of difference in people's lives. Like I said, your tax residency determines a lot. So on the personal side, it's going to determine what kind of income tax you pay. On the corporate side, it's going to determine what corporate taxes you pay. On your assets, it determines the capital gains tax. And this process of changing your tax residency is a very specific process. What you have to do is get some support in the place that you're in to make sure you leave your tax residency, usually in the form of a consultant who can support you in that journey. There's a lot of legal requirements you have to meet. There's also a strategy on how to do this properly, and I'm going to give you a bunch of secrets. Usually, you have to fill out documentation and go through a pretty complex process just getting to the place of actually getting to leave your tax residency. But since you watched this far and I told you I really appreciate your time and respect it, I'm going to give you free tools that'll save you hundreds of thousands of dollars of consultant fees that'll give you all of these things. So, firstly, here's a few tips that I learned along the way. You always want to check the exit tax rules of your country. They're going to be very different depending on different countries. You will most likely want to shift how you own your assets in the country. For example, if you own a home and that's your primary residence, you may want to rent it out or you may want to sell it. Specifically for crypto, you see a lot of governments will charge you tax at the exit from the country. For example, in Australia, if you're an Australian who wants to leave, the moment you officially get rid of your tax residency in Australia, they want you to take the unrealized gains on your crypto and pay tax on that. So, a strategy a lot of people use is if your crypto is at a loss, that is the moment you want to leave. That's when you can actually file taxes with losses on them and sometimes write off those losses against the gains that you may have. Now, for the Indonesian side, for you to get tax residency here, it's simple. You simply set up your company, you get a 2-year visa called a kitas, and that makes you a resident here and also makes you a tax resident here. And those two things are what allow you to be able to interact with the digital asset infrastructure in Indonesia. So now, if all of this sounds really complicated, it is. And like I said, normally you have to get consultants and pay them tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn this information, like I had to. But I am going to save you all of that. Say hello to the Crypto Wealth Bali AI. This is an AI I've trained with all the information that I found from these very expensive consultants, and I'm making it available for free to everyone, especially for you. You can go into this AI and ask it questions the same way you would the consultants. Obviously, this is an AI, so please remember these things aren't always 100% accurate. The responsibility is on you to make sure you check all of these things. But for me, this thing is a lifesaver and it'll help develop the strategy. And if you take that strategy to a consultant or you bring it to us, we're happy to connect you with our global network of professionals who will make this process seamless for you. The most important thing when speaking to this AI is firstly to give it context. tell it your situation specifically, and then please ask it one question at a time. So I would say something like, I am an Australian citizen and I have $500,000 in crypto. How would I change my tax residency? Right? So I gave it the context of who I am and where I am, and then I ask it that question. And it is going to give you a clear step-by-step guide on what to do. And this is exactly the kind of information that all these consultants will give you. And you can ask it as many questions as you like and keep asking for clarification. It can break down all of the steps to very fine details. What I really recommend is writing all of this down and bringing it to a consultant. And if you need help, let us know and we'll connect you with our global network of consultants who will guide you through this process seamlessly. So at the beginning, I promised that we'd give you tools and knowledge and resources that are priceless and that you will not find anywhere else. And hopefully, I've delivered on that promise. If all of this stuff seems a little scary, please don't be alarmed. There's thousands of people going through this journey every single day. And I'll just give you a few examples. We had this family. They were living in the UK, had sold a business, and realized their quality of life had been suffering the whole time. At the same time, they were going to pay 44% on their taxes. And coming here, they reduced that down to 0.1%. But even more importantly, they all gained quality of life. The father had always had a dream of building a new way of education, and he found people here on the same journey. His kids are going to a school where they teach kids how to live in harmony with nature and work with their hands. You see, in Bali, they have this principle. It's called Trihita Karana. It basically means harmony with the Trinity. And it's living in harmony with humanity, with in harmony with spirit, and in harmony with nature. And that is the principle that's being taught to children in the schools. Another friend landed just recently and came here from Canada. And he was going to pay some ridiculous amount on his taxes. And he reduced his business taxes by 99%. And now he's paying 0.5% taxes. And then his crypto, he's of course 0.1%. But the key kind of revelation for him and his friend was that they could let their shoulders down and they could operate freely without feeling like they were always going to violate some kind of regulation, right? Letting go of that fear of the boogeyman in the sky was so moving for them that they actually shared it with me and thanked me for bringing that to them, right? So the internal state that we're able to achieve living a life like this goes far beyond just assets and taxes and all these kind of things. And I could tell you so many stories. There's people and families and couples that come here, they go to the farm, and they instantly realize that this was their entire dream. That they'd been dreaming about living this life of having your own guavas and ducks and chickens and cows and turkeys, and in a shared manner where you don't actually have to take the burden of owning all of it, but you can share into a pot and contribute to that. Coming to see that reinforces your faith in humanity. Come check it out. I can tell you stories all day, but please come check it out for yourself and see what's actually happening here. So now let's imagine you have decided that you're going to leave your current tax residency. You've figured out the strategy. You are ready to go. So now let me explain what these people have gone through, what that process looks like, and what it's going to look like for you. I love working with mind maps. I think it's because of just the way my brain works. And this is the process itself. I know it looks a little complicated, and I'll be honest, for us, it is complicated to execute because there's a lot of steps and a lot of nuance that we have to take care of. For you, it's really simple. There's key steps that you take along the way, and we handle everything for you. We have teams and teams of people that are skilled in handling each one of the steps for you and then answer all your questions. And they're available 24/7 on your WhatsApp. But I'm going to explain all those details. The first half of this process is the company setup and visa process. And that's what we're going to go through first. Okay. And in this process, we will first strategize, then we'll build the company. The company allows us to get the 2-year visa, which gives you the tax residency. And then we help you move to Bali or at least enter Bali. So initially, we will do a consultation together. This is before you pay for anything. This is before you even decide that you'd like to move forward. We sit together and we go through your life and we build a clear strategy. We look at your entire life, your vision, your goals, your needs, your business, and draw out a clear action plan that's specific to you because it's going to vary for each person. And then we both have clarity on exactly what the right steps are going forward. And then we get to the actual execution part of this process. So the first part of that execution is setting up the company. And now for the company setup, the devil is in the detail because the deed has to be structured the right way to make sure that it's modifiable later on. The shareholding has to be structured the right way to make sure that the right people can be on the company. And if you plan to bring people later on into the country, they can get their visas. We have to get the right licenses. We have to get the right authorizations for trading crypto. You see, in Indonesia, your visa depends on what activity you would like to conduct in the country. So let's say you are a business owner that would like to do certain business activities under your business. Those need to be registered under the government with the right ministries. If your wife's a yoga teacher, she will need a different visa, a separate custom visa that allows yoga teachers to operate. So we make sure all of that is aligned from the beginning and everything is done properly. Of course, all of that gets handled during the strategy process. And realistically, all you do is actually either sign with the notaries yourself or you sign a power of attorney to make this process live. And as always, you have a concierge team to ask questions. We can do as many meetings as you like to make sure this process gets handled correctly. So at the end of this process, you officially have a company with the right shareholding and the right business activities. So you never have issues again in Indonesia. Now, that company is what allows for you to then become a resident of Indonesia. And that residency process happens by getting a 2-year visa called a kitas. This 2-year visa is renewable after 2 years. And after the second renewal, you can renew it for 5 years and convert it into something called a kitap, Kitap. Again, this visa needs to be very specific and it needs to be done the right way so you are allowed to conduct that business activity in the country itself. Please be careful of agents that are telling you that you can get this visa done for cheap and then you're allowed to work in any place with this visa. That's not how it works here. So doing it the right way is the name of the game. But in simple terms, our teams handle everything. The strategy has this as part of the process. We effectively get you an entry permit. Once you enter the country, this quitas gets issued to you. And then that quitas allows you to be able to set up the rest of this process, which I'm going to explain in a second. So at this point, you are officially a tax resident of Indonesia. Congratulations. Now, that doesn't mean you're not a tax resident of the country you're coming from. That's a very key thing to remember. That the exit process from your existing country needs to be done according to the laws of that country. Indonesia considers you a tax resident from the moment that you get this quitas, but your existing country will still have a process that you need to go through properly as recommended by the people that you're working with. If you have crypto, that's where the nuance comes in, that the strategy needs to include how to exit from your existing country, potentially at a time when your crypto is low, so you can write off those losses and bring those assets over. The second half of this process is where the real crypto magic happens, right? This is where we're going to set up your banks, set up your exchanges, set up your accounting, your tax structures, and provide you all the training and support needed so that you're skilled in using this entire process. The first and arguably the most important step is actually having the right banking partners and the relationships. You see, a little known fact is that the wealthy operate the way that they do because they have the right banking relationships. And everywhere in the world, but especially here in Indonesia, the relationships you have will define your entire life. So, what we've done is we've built those relationships with the right banks here in Indonesia. Did you know banks in the West are always bankrupt? They have a few percentage points of assets on their balance sheet and over 90% liabilities. That's why there's all these bank runs where they can't give people's money back. In Indonesia, they had the Asian financial crisis in the 90s. And from that, the banks learned a very important lesson. They are only allowed to lend 70% of the value of their assets as debts, which means the banks in Indonesia are over collateralized, not under collateralized like the Western banks. And the banks we've partnered with love having crypto investors, partially because our main partner bank actually owns our main crypto exchange, but also because the Indonesian government is very pro crypto. So the setup with the banks is seamless. Our concierge team sends all of the documents, gets all the paperwork ready. Our main bank even comes to your house to get signatures. And then you have a WhatsApp group with every bank, and you're able to communicate with them and ask questions. And anytime you ever have an issue, they're there to help you at all times, and they know your name. You're not just a number to them. And over this journey, you'll get one private bank with this private family that we're talking about. You'll get one global bank that gives you a multi currency account with 13 currencies. And then we'll set you up with one government bank, which is backed by the Indonesian government. So the benefits of having these banks are innumerable. But specifically, you get freedom to interact with crypto, you get freedom to use your money as you wish, you get these relationships, which go a very long way in this country, and then also allows you to build a track record of wealth. Because one of the biggest issues that we've seen is when people make a lot of money in crypto, it seems like it's being made in this kind of dark space with no track record of it. Bringing it into a system, paying taxes on it, has a, for lack of a better word, a paper trail for those assets. So as you generate that wealth, it is proven to be yours, it's proven to be legitimate. And that goes a long way in this world. As your banks are going through the setup process, we're also going to start to set up your local and global exchanges. As of now, you'll end up getting two local exchanges and two global exchanges. The global exchanges are the ones where your fiat will move through the SWIFT system. So it'll flow through US dollars and it'll go into your multi currency account. The local exchanges go directly to IDR. So they're going to allow you to do instant transactions, like I've already mentioned, but they'll also allow you to do large OTC transactions. For that, we have to make sure the setup is done correctly, but you can do OTC transactions direct to your bank account within seconds. The taxes are going to be auto filed for the local exchanges. For the global exchanges, there's a little bit of work to be done, but it's really simple. And then the main partner exchange we have is owned by the bank. So they love working together and they make it seamless for you to go back and forth. And of course, as you've probably already guessed, you'll also have a concierge WhatsApp group with the exchange that has reps always available, humans always available, not AI, that are always there to help you through the journey. And then you always have our consulting team there to support you through the process. And that freedom to invest, I cannot put into words how good that feels. I remember in the West, in Canada, I just call it the West at this point. Uh, Working with exchanges like Coinbase was such a nightmare because you would try to withdraw your fairly earned gains, and I would be asked for all kinds of verifications and authorizations, or sometimes they'd lock up my account. And then I tried to reach out, and there would be a robot for me to talk to. And then I would try to reach customer service, and there was email. And it was weeks sometimes to go through the process of just getting my own money back. And the same experience with the banks. Whereas here, I have complete freedom to invest. I have people to speak to who I've built long term relationships with, who know exactly who I am, who are always there to support. They make it easy for me to enter and exit from crypto. So crypto doesn't feel like this cage or this, metal box that I'm scared to put my money inside because I'm scared that I can't get it back out again. And that ability to be able to interact with it makes it a holistic, or not even holistic, it makes it a holistic part of my investment portfolio, right? Not just this kind of fringe thing that I'm risking money on. I can reliably depend on it like an investment account. Now, along this journey of generating wealth, I'm sure you've realized that having the right accountant makes all the difference in the world. We've got you covered there too. We have accountants that are ex-tax auditors, skilled in interacting with digital assets, who are more than happy to creatively work with us to help us support this journey of optimizing our taxes rather than always just recommending what's written on a piece of paper somewhere. They're fully compliant. They handle all of the compliance, the registrations, the filings, and everything properly to the T, but they'll also help us with the tax strategy side of things. They also help us set up automated tracking softwares. So the whole accounting side of the business and even the personal life becomes simple and seamless. And like I've already mentioned, the accounting for crypto is already done by the exchanges. This is specifically focused on your personal tax filings and accounting, and especially for your business tax filings and accountings. As far as compliance goes, they're going to handle your bookkeeping, your quarterly filings, your monthly filings, your annual reports, all of it. This process has been streamlined for years and years. So once we get you in from the front end, you just have these concierge teams that handle everything. And of course, you'll have an accounting concierge team because you deserve all the concierge teams, to be honest. Now, once you've gone through this entire process and you have all of these different teams supporting you, usually you'll need some training because now we're talking about a few different systems. So that is included in this process. We'll train you on how to use the banks. We'll train you on how to use the exchanges. The accountants will train you on the accounting software. And then we will give you a year's worth of regulatory updates because this is such a dynamic landscape. It's always shifting and things are always changing. And like I mentioned before, we are part of the regulatory teams that are actually developing the regulations. So for 1 year, we'll make sure you get video updates and notifications anytime there's any kind of changes that'll affect you in the future. And if you'd like to continue that service going forward, we always have that available as well. But this way, you have complete peace of mind. You have your structures in place, you have the teams to support you, you have humans who are always available to help you, and there's always us looking out into the future to make sure there's nothing coming on the horizon that's going to be an unexpected thing to you. So hopefully now you can understand how we've made this complex journey simple and why so many people love it. You know, when I went searching for this process, I could never find anything that was this comprehensive, kind of an end-to-end journey. There were agencies offering just the corporate structuring and the tax residency and the accounting part of it for $250,000. I reached out to one of the top minds in the industry, Nomad Capitalist, and they quoted me 28,000 US dollars just for the initial consultation. And I get it, this stuff is super worth it. So I don't blame them for anything. But for me, even though I could afford it, I thought that was ridiculous. Plus, then I expected that there would be more comprehensive support because it takes a lot to move from one country to another. So that's why I decided to make this entire process available for a fraction of what they are charging people. Now, the other thing with their setups is they'll consult me initially, and then the next recommendation is for me to get a passport in a country where it costs me $250,000 to get that passport. So I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole just to get set up. And I get it. If you're above the $10 million net worth, that kind of setup makes perfect sense for you. For me personally, I'm still on that journey. So I realize there's so many people that need this that, first of all, should just get this information for free, like I've been giving you, and should be able to set it up and come live in a place that doesn't cost an arm and a leg to set up. Well, now, please get in touch with us. If you would like support in going through this journey and you feel like this is valuable to you, get in touch, and I would love for us to get to know each other better. The next step after that is usually we take you through this process and you move to Bali. If you choose that that's not the route you'd like to go, at the least just come check it out. I would say Bali can't be explained, it has to be felt. And in a very spiritual manner, she chooses who's meant to be here. So please come here, please feel through what this lifestyle looks like. I love having face-to-face meetings rather than just on computers. Come check out the farms, come see what we built. And if you feel like that's a good fit for you, we'd be happy to move forward and work with you. Otherwise, please take this entire process and do it yourself. My goal with this is for people to take this and for them to be able to implement this on their own. And the karma that I get for that is more than enough. And my life has proven that to me through and through. So, this process that I've explained is actually the standard process that we take people through. There's multiple tiers to it, depending on what level of access you'd like and how much capital you would like to on ramp and off ramp. We also have a special process available for crypto projects and larger companies who would like to tokenize real world assets, especially in Indonesia. So, in this journey of working with the government, we have access to regulatory sandboxes and zero tax special economic zones. We have access to networks of consultants and the relationships with the right ministries and actors in the government to help you execute a project and actually tokenize real world assets in Indonesia. Again, it's another little known thing, but this is the future of how Indonesia would like to interact with these assets. So if you feel like that's something you'd be interested in, please get in touch and we'd be happy to discuss that. So hopefully that has been as valuable as I promised at the beginning. And before we get done, I'd just like to handle a few things for housekeeping. So here's a few things to remember, please. Firstly, things always change. By the time you watch this video, a lot of the things I've said will have shifted. So don't be concerned when we have a meeting and you find that certain things have changed. This world is changing every second. We can get you the help, but that responsibility is on you. Another key thing that sometimes causes problems for people is you need to have 30 months on your passport to go through this journey. So if you have a passport that has anything less than 30 months, please make sure you renew that. And I just want you to know we don't make any commissions from recommending you to certain people. That is not how we operate. That's not how we like to work. We make sure everything is done to the best for you, not for us. This entire process is something that you need to choose. You need to be comfortable with. You need to learn about, and it needs to be part of your own strategy. So, beyond just a boilerplate disclaimer, I just want you to know that you need to feel self sufficient through this process and take decisions that are the best for you. We'll support you through that journey, but remember, do your own research. And that's it. I will stop talking. Like I said, if this is something that you would love to do, I would love to meet you. If you'd like to come see it, please come check it out. There's always a coconut waiting on the beach for you, and there's always an empty seat right next to me. And until that happens, please take care of yourself and your loved ones, and we'll see you soon.